Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Hello and welcome back. I am Aaron Covington,
And I'm Tony Rag,
and we are
40 Black and Dad.
all right. Tony, man, welcome back.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
Welcome back. You've been on vacation.
I'm on a perpetual vacation, it seems like, for the
Yeah.
last few months. So, yes, I was on another vacation. Now I'm back and energized and ready to talk dad.
Great. Well, this week we're going to get into this idea of it takes a village. But before we even jump in, why don't you let us know? Because this was a cruise ship you guys were on, right? So give
Yeah.
us maybe just a quick rundown of like the trip, and so your son went with you on the cruise.
Yeah, 2-year-old
Yeah,
with
just how it was for him and everything.
Yeah, so we broke it up. So it's kind of two vacations in one. So we have a little timeshare in Florida right outside Orlando. So we went out there a few days before our cruise so my parents could spend some time with him at Disney World, which he loved.
Yeah.
So we got a chance to do that, got to see the grandparents early, have some one-on-one time with them before our cruise because our cruise is about 55, 56 people. So it was chaotic. They weren't able to spend as much time with them one-on-one during the cruise, so we got some time beforehand.
Wait,
Um,
55, 56 people
on the
in your
cruise,
family or
in
total
our
on the
group.
cruise?
No, in
In
our
your group? Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
the cruise had like 4,700 people, but
Yeah, yeah. I was
our
just wondering,
group
I was
was
like, if y'all had
yeah,
a 50-person cruise, man, y'all was
that's dope.
that's
We had the
elite.
whole
Yeah.
ship. Yeah, no, but yeah, in our like so every 2 years we do well. Before COVID, it was every 2 years. Now this is the first one since COVID because all the travel. But every 2 years we do a big family cruise. My mom's a travel agent, so she plans it all. So this year was our biggest group. It was I think 56 ended up coming total.
Wow.
So yeah, it was insane. Like it was cool, but it was also chaotic. And I knew my mom was going to be under a lot of pressure, so we got there early so she could spend some time with him relaxing before everybody started to fly in because everybody flies in like a day before the cruise, and then they
Right.
just get started there. So, but he loved it. He loved Disney. He's been to Disneyland in California, so it was his first time in Disney World in Florida, and they took him to Animal Kingdom, which he loved. He loves animals. He loves
Okay,
dinosaurs. He
yeah,
loves
that makes sense. 'Cause I'm like, does he know Mickey Mouse? I mean, maybe he knows them a bit, but it's also has to be a little abstract to them. But animals, they know.
Yeah. Oh, and he knows Mickey too, because they have the TV shows. We have Disney Plus, and he watches that every day, so he knows Mickey. But we
Mm,
didn't want him to, because Magic Kingdom is pretty much in Disneyland, and it's also in Disney World, so we didn't want him to do the same thing. So the one specialty park really is the Animal Kingdom in Florida. So he went to that, and he loved it. He got to get on a bunch of rides. They have like an actual safari park in the park, so like with live
oh wow.
animals, so it was cool. So it was kind of like when we went to Kenya, kind of that safari, but just a little safer inside Disney Wall. So he loved it. I had a good time. He's team no nap anytime he goes to Disney. So he's up from 7 a.m. to 11 or 12 p.m. every day, the whole time. The second he gets home, he fell asleep. So it was a great day for us
Right.
to me and Trevi to spend some time together. And then on the cruise, it was his first cruise, and it was also me and Trevi's third anniversary. So it was cool to be able to kind of combine the trips together. So all the family there, Legends First Cruise and our anniversary. He loved it. Had a good time. There's a lot of things. It was a carnival cruise. There's a lot of things that they tailor toward kids. They have like a kids club. They have kids pools. They have French fries, which my son loves. So he had
Mm.
a blast. We went to Aruba, Carousel, and Turks and Caicos. Highly recommend all three if you ever get a chance to go. But yeah, just a beautiful trip, man. Good relaxation, good people, good times, good energy. Got a chance to actually relax and recharge for just not myself, but also the family because we had been doing a lot of movement, like you said. So it's nice to actually just have a relaxed vacation and spend some time with the
Yeah.
family we haven't seen in years.
Yeah, that's a great time and a great tradition for you and the family to get back together, get back to what is your normal,
Yeah.
after these really strange last 4 years.
Hmm.
We'll have to do an episode that's like specifically about travel
Oh yeah.
and how to how to kids react to certain things and how you handle things.
Parent hacks. There's a lot of travel parent hacks that are really that you learn as you go. Like, oh yeah, if I had done this from the beginning, it'd been way
Yeah,
easier. So we'll talk about that too.
and really talk about controlling, not really controlling, but handling moods,
Yeah,
mood shifts. If he's up from 7 to midnight, like that's a lot of moods for a kid to go through. Even if he's mostly excited, it's still like, they just change so quick, you know.
yeah, very quickly. So.
But yeah, this
But
week we're
the
talking
good
about
thing we have people with us. Yeah. I was say the good thing we have people with us, which segues perfectly into our topic today.
the topic of it takes a village. Does it take a village? What kind of village? What is the village that it takes to raise a child? It's the most helpful things, and also some things that maybe are not so helpful that you get in a village. Got to
That's
look at
true.
all sides of it. The first thing I thought about when we talked about this topic is the title of the podcast, 40 Black and Dad. So when you're 40, near 40, and you have your first kid, it's a big difference from being 25 and having your first kid. Like your
Hmm.
village has also aged.
Yeah.
And if they know it or not, once they spend some time with the kid, they'll know it for sure. They'll know it for sure. And they're like, oh, wait, I can't quite keep up, or I don't have the energy, the stamina that I did. So in my family, like my sister had her son 12, 13 years ago.
Oh, okay.
My mom was in her late 50s. My mom is 70 something now when I'm having my first kid.
Hmm.
Besides the fact that she lives across the country, you know, even if she were here, she couldn't extend the same care that she could almost 13 years ago, And when she visited, I think she really understood like there's ways that I could help if I were here all the time or when I am here when I do visit, but it's not like full time like it was, not too long ago.
Yeah. My parents were really good around nap time. Like, oh, we can put them down for a nap. Like that. I mean, and that's very true. You're right because, like I said, as we all age, the way that we're interacting or the way that our village is interacting with our kids is going to be very different. Now, there's some pros and there's also some cons. The pros being they're a little wiser. They have an understanding of kind of the totality of childhood and they've seen stages. Like one thing that we got a lot of advice on from the when we were at the cruise with our family, for better or for worse. It's like, this is how all kids act. Like he's 2 years old, he's gonna be attached to you. It's not just legend, or not just your son. It's all kids like this. So you have to still make sure that you're, taking time for yourself and things like that. So you get, I think, more mature advice as your village and yourself get older, but you get less physical help.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so it's kind of that trade-off.
yeah. That's funny. It's like, I can't quite be there, but I've been thinking about it more than I would have 20
Exactly.
years ago. Got a
Like
lot of thoughts for
everybody's
you.
kids are a little bit older, so they're like, "Oh yeah, all 2 year olds do this," or you have to let them go a little bit. Or they give you really good advice at the stages because they've seen it, multiple times over. But they're not gonna be there to help you with it. They'll just tell you what to do and then go back to the room and go take a nap.
Well, that's the thing with parents and like aunts and uncles who had you and your cousins, for example. They should have had that advice even if we did have kids 15 years ago, right? So what is
Maybe.
that change? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, they still might have, but would we have been receptive to it is I guess my thought because when you're in your 20s, and you're still run like right now I'm not running out to the club, I'm not doing these like I'm
Right.
I'm not necessarily trying to push my kid off on a bunch of people so I can go out and do stuff. He's with us more, which I guess it could be a detriment if he's with us too much and doesn't socialize better, more versus if I'm in my 20s and 30s trying to move around and try to do all these things.
Yeah.
It'd probably be different advice versus, don't have him with you so much versus you probably need to stay with him more. Like, and again, it could be
Right.
different
Right.
depending on the situations, but I know for us, like we're not really going out that much. And with COVID, obviously he was with us a lot, and my wife is very much the mama bear. So like even with like the kids club that they had at the cruise ship, she wasn't necessarily super comfortable putting them there all the time. Even for our anniversary, she's like, "No, I'm gonna have them with them." Like, no, we need to spend some time for ourselves. And I think what the advice we get more now is like we need to make sure that as a couple and as a family, we're making sure we're still having our bonds between me and my wife, and still make sure that we're allowing the child to grow kind of and blossom within society, within different situations.
Mm, yeah, definitely. We definitely had a thing too where we have a nanny coming to the house at times,
Hmm.
for a few hours, a few days a week. And so my partner was going to a work function,
Hmm.
but we haven't done a lot of bottle feeding. So then we're trying to give the bottle, and the baby's crying. I'm trying, the nanny's trying. And I think me and the nanny are like, well, I know I'm like, she'll take it eventually or she'll go to sleep. Like, if you're going to go to the thing, you just got to go. But
Hmm.
eventually she was like, oh, I can't go because the baby's crying.
Hmm.
But we got some advice from a friend who doesn't live in LA, but has two or three kids. But anyway, she was like, they're always going to do that.
Yeah.
If you try to leave, you try to put them in their own room when they go to school, when they go to daycare, drop them off at grandma's. Like,
Yep.
they're always going to cry, and you're always going to be want to stay or take them with you.
Yeah, you're gonna feel
And,
bad and guilty because you feel like you're abandoning your kid. Yeah, we got that advice a lot too, so that's true.
and as soon as you leave, like, if you could have a camera on the kid, depending on when you leave them, between 1 minute and 20 minutes, they're going to be happy because whoever's there, you're somebody you trust or a situation you trust, is taking
Exactly.
care of them and is loving on them, and in the way that it's supposed to be in that situation. And the kid is going to be smiling and having a good time, and they'll be like, you know what I mean? It's like that
Mhm.
crying is only in that moment. It's not. They're not really like breaking down their heart and soul. They're not going to go write a song about it and make a video singing in the rain like my mom left me. They're just like, it's just like a temporary thing,
Yeah.
separation anxiety, whatever, that they'll get over, especially with like grandma who's gonna
Oh
take the best care of them.
yeah. No, and that's very true. They always say, kids always act worse for their parents than they do for anybody else.
Oh,
Like,
for sure.
our son will be crying and screaming the second we leave. We'll get a picture 30 seconds later. He's kicked up and back watching TV, drinking the juice or whatever, doesn't care about us. And then the second we
Right.
get back, he starts screaming and crying. But I heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard like it's a kind of a psychological thing because they know with mom and dad, they're gonna still get that love. They can test the boundaries with mom
Yeah.
and dad. They know they're still gonna get that love. They're gonna still get that positive response at the end because it's mom and dad. With other people that they might not be with as much, they don't know I call it a habitual line stepper. They don't know the boundaries that they can go
Hmm.
to. So they act better because they don't know what the response would be if they act really badly. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that's true, but I heard it, and I've seen it with my son a lot. Like he'll scream and cry. We leave. He's with grandma, grandpa, whoever, and he's fine. Like no, like oh, he was the best. We went to Disney. They said he was the best kid ever. He was talking and laughing, and he told me he had to go pot. Like perfect child. When we go to Disney, he wants to scream and cry, and we need to be held the whole time. And it's
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy. So it is a difference, but yeah, again, it comes down to I'm sure psychological factors that if you build that that nest of support and trust within the child when you leave, I think they know that mom and dad left me with this person. I should be safe.
Yeah. And that's a tale as old as time too.
Yeah.
All kids do that. You're always going to test your parents a little more. Really,
Mhm.
your whole life, their whole life. Like,
Telling you,
it,
habitual
it,
line stepper. That's what's
that,
the habitual
yeah,
line steppers.
that's kind of the burden of being a parent, is that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Even as you just get older and like you're passing your trauma down, and even inadvertently, or childhood is inherently traumatic, so they're picking up things, and you have to help them through school, through relationships, through successes and disappointments at all
Yeah.
stages of life.
And it never ends. I'm 40, I still talk to my mom about, ups and downs of life and parents are, oh, and it's funny because that's one thing I actually kind of look forward to when my son gets older. I always tell my wife, like, can't wait till he's like 4 or 5 and like I can actually start like imparting wisdom and like
Yeah,
having connections with him of like things that he goes through that I might not be there for, but I can help guide him through. And I'm
yeah,
looking forward to that. Because I still have talks like that with my dad and my mom, and it was like
yeah,
that's a good connection to have, and I really hope that we're imparting that type of trust now. So then later on, he has that connection and communication with us to be able to come to us when he has these type of, events in his life that, he might need advice on.
100%. And even that's still young. I'm like, I can't wait to like 11,
Yeah.
12 can actually like have a talk with some understanding. But I'm definitely looking forward to an age of, walking and playing and that kind of, a little more awareness. But at like four, almost a little over 3 months now, we're definitely seeing so much advancement. It is interesting. It's very interesting to chart um, their mental growth, and their dexterity. Another part of the village, this maybe goes to something we were talking about before, but everybody's situation is different, but the advice you can get from men in your village as a dad varies so greatly with
Yeah.
our generation. And it's also like, okay, so what men that are around whose advice do I actually value? Like, who do I believe, especially if I'm getting advice or you're getting advice about where you are now with like a
Hmm.
2.5 year old, where I am now with a 3.5 month old. If I'm talking to an older man, 60s, 70s, I'm like, man, you didn't change enough diapers for me to listen to your advice right now. I cannot, I can't
Yeah.
take it seriously, man. I'm changing more diapers for this kid than anybody right now. I'm putting him to sleep. I'm doing a lot. You wasn't doing enough for me to fully listen to what you have to say. And that's if, there actually aren't a lot of men in my circle that are older that
Hmm.
I'm like relying on or leaning on or getting that advice from. I have a
Yeah.
couple, uncles that didn't have kids, and I'm not really close. I'm not close with my dad right now, so and all the male influence is really on my partner's side,
Hmm.
and I'm not that close with them. And I'm also like, again, like what I was just saying, like, what was you doing in '80s? Was you just out working, or I need to know. I need to know how many bottles you held.
Right. What's your bottle count?
What's
And
your
that's
bottle
that's
count?
true. That I mean that's very true because like I said, this is the first generation really that we've seen, more stay-at-home dads or more dads around where it's not, they're leaving at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. and coming home at 6 p.m. just to put them to sleep and give them a kiss and don't know anything about their day. Like we
Right.
have we have connectivity with cell phones, we have connectivity where you're able to see more. And it's actually true when you brought up the fact that, there's not too many male role models that even from I like my dad, like I talk to him, pretty often. But other than that, like a couple of my cousins, like one of my cousins, he had a kid for like a month, like before we had our son. He's the same age as me, so we talk, and he's actually his wife's pregnant right now, with the second kid, so we talk. But like I said, you don't see too many. You don't get a lot of advice, or I personally haven't gotten a lot of advice that necessarily correlates to exactly what we're going through. Like before my grandpa passed, like I made it a point to talk to him about just about like the generations of of men that dads and fathers and kind of going through from what he's seen and
Yeah.
had a chance for him to meet my son and just trying to impart some knowledge. And again, it was good general knowledge about being a good father, being a good man, and things like that, but some of the more specific things to what we're dealing with now with identity thing. There's a lot of things that we're dealing with now that he never dealt with back when he was growing up, and then my dad never dealt with. So it's going to be
Yeah.
very interesting to see how our generations, I guess the older millennials and younger, what the advice we give to our kids. and then from there how that translates down because we have more say, we have more visibility of what we're seeing happen day to day, more so than anybody else did in the past, from a male perspective for sure.
I definitely get most of my, if it's anything, it's definitely from other fathers about our age, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
guys that have just had kids. I actually connected with a friend on LinkedIn. I didn't even realize he just had kids. They're, I think, 8-month-old twin. No, maybe it was last year. He had twins. Um, so now we're connected, and like through this podcast and other friends that are, right around the same age,
Hmm.
just had kids, and now I know a couple of guys that are having kids. So
Now's the
I hit
time.
them on the text and check in. We had Sullivan on the pod. I
Yeah.
check in with him. He texted me a couple times just to see how it's going. So that's really village in terms of su- support in the like mental support,
Hmm.
psychological support. Still not in like the physical realm. I'm not dropping my kid off at their house. But like you said, we're kind of home more. Maybe that's not as necessary.
Hmm.
What other what other ideas or topics this bring up for you?
Yeah, I just to circle back real quick on that last point is like I think we're getting more advice like in the trenches now. Like we're getting it
In
as
the
we're
trenches?
seeing it. Like like when you said the guy with twins, I'm like, man, I'd love to have him on just to see what it's like because again, we're planning on having a second kid. Like he has two at the same time. Like that's a
Yeah,
total
right.
different ball game. So,
I gotta
but
reach out.
yeah, and like, and again, I wasn't around in the 50s and 60s and 70s where how men were interacting, but I don't think that they were going to work, by the water cooler talking about, child rearing,
Right,
back then. And like I said, now we all have like, we have podcasts like this. You have, Instagram, you have YouTube, Facebook. You have a lot of different um avenues and outlets that are talking about it more as we're in it. Like we're literally in it. You have a 3 month old, I have a 2.5 year old. Like those are tough times. And there's a lot of people that are about to have kids or just had a kid that might not have that role model, like you had said, to talk to somebody. So I think
right.
it's avenues like this. Like we are part of the village, whether we know it or not. Like we don't know who listens to the podcast. We don't know who might stumble across this one day, and we might
Oh no,
help.
we
No,
right
we
now
have
we do know who
seven of
listens.
us.
We know
There's like
exactly.
seven. Exactly. My mom, your mom, our spouses, and us. Yeah, like
No, no,
uh,
I got about three friends I know that tune in
but
regularly.
they might have been watching it. Somebody else overheard it while they were watching it.
Yeah,
Might have
yeah, they had it on the bus,
exactly.
just loud.
So,
But I wonder, yeah, I mean that's why I would like to, we're gonna try and grow the pod so that it can be in some way a place for dads to get some information and
yeah,
to
we
be a
can be
part
part
of
of people's
the, yeah,
villages. Yeah,
to be a part of people's village. I mean, I'm on social media where, especially Instagram, I think is the one where I'm following dad accounts,
yeah,
and some of them are actually somewhat helpful in terms of products or tips and tricks. Some of them are just making jokes, like little meme videos and stuff. But I think all of it collectively helps me feel like just somebody else is going through it.
it- and that's you put it. We can end right there because that's exactly what it is. It's like the biggest thing about this community and this village is like you guys, you're not alone, and other people, and even I actually really enjoy the funny dad ones where it's like, oh, this is something that all kids do, no, regardless of
Right.
what age they are. Like everybody's going through, and especially if you're of a certain age, like millennials of 40, like too tired to do this or wanting to do this after the kids go to bed. Like there's certain things that we all are going through, but now we can all communicate that because before everything, we go to your house, everybody's separate. Now we can kind of communicate that better. And like you said, it makes you just feel a little bit better. Like, okay, I'm not struggling. I'm not doing the wrong thing. Like if everybody else's kids are doing this too, I must be at least on the right path or similar to where I feel like they should be at. So I think that's a perfect sentiment right there for sure.
Hey, I won't belabor the point. We'll wrap it up there. Uh, like you were saying, in the coming weeks, I think we have some more topics to talk about, obviously, and we'll revisit some things. We had a good sleep one. We'll talk
Oh
I
yeah.
was thinking about burping. We need to talk about burping a little bit. Maybe tie that in the next food one. Talk about food and talk about fits and tantrums
Yeah, those continue to happen.
of all
They get
kinds.
worse.
I tell you what, they happen your whole life. You know, you have to like, even as an adult, you have to start to catch when you're throwing a tantrum. You have
Hmm.
to understand what an adult tantrum is, which isn't necessarily screaming and kicking and screaming. Sometimes it's being silent.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's being aggressive. Sometimes it's leaving the house or leaving the room. These are all adult tantrums
yeah,
that we do, and we don't think about them that. We think about them like, I need to get my space, or, but no, you're just upset and kind of throwing a fit, and learning to get a handle on those things and recognizing them when they happen. And it can be really difficult with your kid when you're also really sleep deprived or really stressed,
yeah,
to manage certain part of yourself and them and your partner doing the same things.
yeah.
you know,
That's true. And I
it's
think that
complicated.
that's a perfect segue into our next topic. Next week will be dad self-care, which I'm excited to talk about. It's a that's a good one. I
It's
think
it's going to be deep because we got to visit like postpartum depression
yeah.
in men and dads. And I heard a real interesting story about um, some ideas of how that happens sometimes.
Hmm.
Anyway, we'll get into that more next time. I want to leave the door open. Anything you want to add before we get out of here?
No, I like this. Like I said, the village, like, we want to be part of people's villages. So, like, subscribe, listen to us, reach out to us, and definitely want to hear people's thoughts on, their village and how things have changed in their life.
Sure. Thanks, Tone, and signing off. Later.
Yeah. Adios.